So it really feels like I can't catch a break recently. Just 2 days ago I had to make a video where I added some more context to all my previous videos, and now I'm pretty much being put in the exact same situation. So I've once again been put on a spanking board by the internet recently after I uploaded my second video talking about the Samsung Odyssey Neo G9. And in that video I tried to warn people that it's not just all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to this monitor, because both Displayport and HDMI could have a hard time reaching that desired 240Hz refresh rate, but most people probably won't even have a graphics card that will fully utilize all its greatness. And many people seem to have taken exception to that, and everyone has been saying the exact same thing of me. What about display stream compression? I mean, yeah, what about it? So let's go over exactly what it is and what I apparently missed out in my last video on the topic. So display stream compression, or DSC as most people call it, is a technology that has been recently incorporated into both Displayport 1.4 and HDMI 2.1 as a way to get an even higher refresh rate. And even though the word compression might sound scary and as if you're losing out on a lot of detail, frankly it's not that bad, because DSC is a form of visually lossless compression, or basically a form of compression that does not sacrifice detail, or at least to the naked eye. That means you should be getting a much higher refresh rate from your Samsung Odyssey Neo G9, like many people have been very quick to remind me in my last video on the topic. But it couldn't be that easy, right? DSC shouldn't just magically solve every single problem this monitor could have without at least introducing some other ones. There has to be something more. And well, there is. Because even though people have been launching the argument about DSC at me like a crucifix to a vampire, well, it is definitely all a bit more nuanced. And there are naturally downsides to using DSC, even if people are avoiding admitting that there are. Firstly, running on DSC has proven to impact the colors you see on your display, and it's pretty much up to the display manufacturer to try and combat that as best as they can. And even in the comment section for my own video talking about the Neo G9, people have been complaining that in the original G9, they have been seeing a much more greyish hue when DSC was on. So we can just show that it's something that Samsung are able to address for this brand new Neo G9. And seeing how you're paying $2,500 for a display, you'd want issues like that to be ironed out naturally. Users have also been reporting DSC causing a slightly higher latency, which especially for competitive gamers could be a huge deal. Though the difference is so minor that unless you are a really competitive gamer or just extremely observant, well, you probably won't notice a difference at all. So in general, yes, I have to admit that DSC will probably solve most of the problems I talked about in my previous video. It will introduce some new ones, but let's be honest, they'll be so minor most people probably won't care. However, no amount of display stream compression or anything like that will solve what's probably the biggest issue of this monitor, one that I also brought up in my previous video that people seem to mainly ignore, and that is that even though in theory you could reach a 240Hz refresh rate, odds are you probably won't be getting that much FPS anyway. Keep in mind that this monitor is insane. It is a 32:9 aspect ratio 1440p display, meaning that's essentially just two 16:9 2560 by 1440p monitors just glued together side by side. So that should give you enough context to understand exactly how many pixels you're going to be attempting to drive here. Like, it's a lot of work for a GPU. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if modern graphics cards were keeping up with this insane demand for high refresh rates, and for the most part, they've been somewhat keeping up, but the main issue is that while current-gen graphics cards that are naturally the most suited to running this kind of beast of a monitor, I mean, who does have a current-gen graphics card? Next to no one because of the shortages, and not to mention you can't even get HDMI 2.1 unless you have a current-gen graphics card, so you'll just be stuck with Displayport 1.4. Now, one could make the argument that if you are in the market to buy a $2,500 display, you could also, pay scalper pricing to afford yourself a nice current-gen graphics card that could actually attempt to drive this thing properly. I'd argue that this kind of monitor has a much wider target audience than just the guys rich enough to be able to afford the kind of hardware to even drive it. See, in the past years, the way that gamers have been treating monitors has changed a lot. Previously, most people just used some variant of a 1080p 60Hz monitor by some company like Samsung or Sharp or BenQ. You know kind of monitors I'm talking about, right? It's a lot more of a recent trend that people have started caring more about what kind of tech the monitor actually has. Not only has display technology improved a lot, but thanks to the magic of social media, more gamers now know the importance of things like refresh rate, or what kind of panel type you have. Gamers with all types of budgets right now are switching over to super high refresh rate monitors because they've just been seeing all this information about how great it is, and how it's going to make them a better gamer, and how it's just going to look so much smoother. And that's going to be reason enough for many people to try and save up all those pennies to get something like the Neo G9. And it's not just refresh rates, things like panel type, or G-Sync or FreeSync compatibility, or color depth, or HDR. All those things that people seemingly gave no thought to before, mainly because it didn't really exist in consumer space, now it's becoming so much more important to people, and they'll pay any sum they can and save up for ages just to get all those awesome features. And all of that also means that display technology has been kind of outpacing GPU technology. And that's a pretty big issue, because you do need a pretty beefy GPU to run these kind of mod displays. And again, especially now when people are becoming more educated about displays, people are starting to move away from 1080p to 40p, and naturally probably even the bigger change is people moving away from 60Hz to 144 or even more. That is all becoming super difficult to drive, especially as games themselves are also becoming much better looking. So for a couple of years now, people have been struggling to find graphics cards that are at a reasonable price that can even drive these modern displays. And that's even before the current chip shortages hit and made it 100 times worse. Though TLDR, displays are really outpacing graphics cards, the chip shortage didn't help at all, and things like DSC are just a band-aid solution, seeing how they do introduce some downsides. So there we go, my updated take on the Samsung Odyssey Neo G9. It's pretty much the same, just with more of me begging for you not to dislike bomb this video like last time. Please don't do it. But if I enlightened you at all about the current situation, then hey, if you want to thank me by supporting my channel on Patreon, that would be awesome. It's coming down in the video description below, and even $1 a month goes a long way in helping on this channel. I'd also love to thank my existing patrons Gavin Burns, Ryan LKB, Meg Sumner, Blade Rake, Shane Allcroft, and Lance B. Thank you guys so much, support truly goes a long way. And you're also going to find our Amazon Associates links if you want to pick up any kind of hardware or pretty much anything else on Amazon. Plus then there's also our Discord server if you want to tell me how wrong I am down there. Plus then there's our social media links as well. But anyway, that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.